Pierce Brosnan has played a man who stares death in the face and never flinches. But there is a kind of loss no training, no script, and no amount of global fame can prepare you for. And Pierce Brosnan has known that loss not once, but twice, in the cruelest way imaginable. Behind the perfectly fitted dinner jacket, behind the raised eyebrow, and the easy confidence that made millions of people fall in love with James Bond, there was a real man, a boy who grew up without his father, a child who watched his mother disappear to another country, and learned, very early, that the people you love can vanish without warning.
And then, as an adult, he held the hand of his wife while she died, and years later, he held the hand of his daughter while she died from the very same disease. The same cancer, 2 generations, one father, left standing both times. This is not a story about Bond.
This is the story of the man Pierce Brosnan actually is. He was born on May 16, 1953, in Drogheda, Ireland, and spent his earliest years in Navan. His father, Thomas, left when Pierce was still an infant, so young that there was no memory to hold on to, only an absence that shaped everything that came after. Then, when Pierce was 4 years old, his mother May made a decision that would define his childhood. She left for London to train as a nurse. She had to work. She had to build something. But it meant that her little boy was left behind. She came back when she could, sometimes only once or twice a year. In between those visits, Pierce moved through a series of homes. First, his maternal grandparents, who gave him warmth and stability. Then, after they died, he went to live with an aunt, then an uncle, and eventually to the boarding house of a woman named Eileen Riley. The address kept changing. The people kept changing. But Pierce carried something steady inside him, a gift for finding the good in wherever he landed. He later recalled that his grandfather had been the hand he held. That image says everything. A small boy reaching for something permanent in a world that kept shifting beneath his feet. At Eileen's house, he slept in a narrow iron bed beside a window blocked with newspaper to keep out the light. It could easily sound like a sad story. Pierce never told it that way. He remembered it with genuine warmth. The children he played with, the streets he knew, a tiny slide projector that his mother brought home one visit. She would set it up and throw images of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck across the ceiling, turning an ordinary room into something magical. For a few hours, that ceiling became a private cinema, and the boy who missed his mother got to sit beside her in the dark and watch the light move. Then came the Christmas she couldn't make it back. Work wouldn't allow it. Instead, a gift arrived in her place, a pair of worn boxing gloves. Pierce kept those gloves for decades. He never needed to explain why. They were proof that she thought of him, even from far away. They outlasted the distance. In the summer of 1964, at 11 years old, Pierce finally rejoined his mother and her new husband, William Carmichael. Bill brought a sense of steadiness that the boy had rarely known. And during those first weeks in England, the family went to see Goldfinger at the cinema. Sean Connery filled the screen. Controlled, dangerous, magnetic. It planted a seed Pierce probably didn't even recognize at the time. Outside the cinema, London was less welcoming. Classmates called him Irish, as though it were an insult. Pierce decided to own the word before it could be used as a weapon against him. That particular kind of quiet defiance, taking what's thrown at you and turning it into something yours, would define him for the rest of his life. By 16, he had left school carrying a cardboard folder of drawings under his arm. He started training in commercial illustration. Painting came first. Then, almost by accident, an experimental theater workshop introduced him to movement, mime, and the strange electricity of live performance. Something clicked. He enrolled at the Drama Centre London and spent 3 years learning the craft from the inside out, the discipline behind every pause, every breath, every line. He once said that when acting found him, it felt like liberation. For a boy who had spent his childhood moving between other people's homes, here was something that asked him to stand completely still, be fully present, and be genuinely seen. That was not a small thing. After graduating in 1975, he joined the Theatre Royal in York and began earning his place on stage. The roles were small, the work was demanding. Then Tennessee Williams himself saw Pierce perform, and cast him in the 1977 British production of The Red Devil Battery Sign. Williams reportedly sent a brief telegram afterward, containing only a handful of words. "Thank God for you, my dear boy." It didn't make Pierce famous overnight, but it told him he was on the right path. Film work arrived slowly.